Have you ever just got to the end of yourself and asked God to reveal himself? Well, I'm going to tell you about a prayer that I said, that it was a little bit like that. It was a turning point in my life, I think. I think it was sometime in 2019 or so when I was, as a Jehovah's Witness, not feeling right spiritually. I prayed to God about it. I prayed to Jehovah, and I told him that I didn't feel ready for what was coming. I told him that I felt like there was something wrong with me spiritually. I wanted him to show me what it was. And I told him that I wanted to feel his presence like I had when I was a little kid. And I really hadn't in such a long time. So, what happened? Well, over the next few years, there was a process of coming out of the Watchtower organization. And I discovered that it was being in that organization that was impeding my spiritual development. But you know what? A lot of people come out of the Watchtower organization, but most of them don't keep their faith. Most of them end up not believing in God anymore. Or if they do, it's not the God of the Bible. So why didn't I do that? Why didn't I just walk away not only from the organization, but also from God entirely? I'll tell you why. Because Jesus is real. He revealed himself to me. And because I know I can't save myself. And he is the only one who offers to save me. And he did that through his death, burial, and resurrection. Every other belief system in the world requires human effort for salvation. Jesus is the only one who did it for us. But like I said, most people who leave the Watchtower organization end up with some other kind of belief system. And don't kid yourself. You might think that you don't believe in anything, but you do. Even if you're an atheist, you have to have faith that there's no God who requires anything out of you. And you need it so that you can live your life your way without feeling any guilt for disregarding God. So I think that 3 of the most common non-Christian worldviews for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are, number 1, of course, atheism, or I should say unbelief, because I'm going to put agnosticism and deism under that umbrella of unbelief. Number 2, the New Age. And number 3, Gnosticism. And I think there's a common thread between these 3 belief systems. And that is, the common thread is independence from God and reliance on yourself for salvation. This is something that we were accustomed to as Jehovah's Witnesses. Instead of relying completely on God and his word, we revered a group of men in New York. Whatever they said was law. And what they taught us was that we had to work hard for the Watchtower organization in order to even have a chance at salvation. And though ex-Jehovah's Witnesses recognized that there was something not right about the organization, many, if not most of us, have remnants of the old way of thinking still embedded in our minds. And you know what? It takes time and effort to shed that. If you don't, you have the tendency to fall for other deceptions that are similar to the one you just came out of, and sometimes even greater deception. Okay, so let's get down to it. Let's talk about the first belief system on my list. That is unbelief, or atheism or agnosticism or deism. Let me explain deism real quick for those of you who don't know what that is. It's believing that there probably is a God, but that he is an impersonal God who doesn't care about his creation. And so you can safely ignore him. So I think that unbelief is often just a temporary reaction to the trauma of leaving the organization, but it often becomes permanent. You know, what was it about the organization that set us up for this? How did the Watchtower organization teach us to think like atheists? Something I say often is that involvement in the Watchtower organization is like a vaccine against spiritual truth. Jehovah's Witnesses are taught that all religion, including Christianity, is evil. So what is a Jehovah's Witness to do when they find out that the organization too is false? Well, what usually happens is that they decide, just like J.F. Rutherford, that religion is a snare and a racket. And since Jehovah's Witnesses tend to associate God with religion, then they reject God too. And you know, honestly, I think deep down, it's anger and disappointment with God. So yeah, they reject him. And having been taught to rely on their own effort for future salvation on a paradise earth, they easily transition into relying on themselves for present salvation in a world they think is the only reality they will ever know. But friends, what if they're wrong? What if many of the things you think you know about Christendom are wrong? And what if there's more to the story? What if there really is a God who loves you? And what if he's way bigger than the Jehovah of the Watchtower organization, or any particular denomination or organization for that matter? Don't be afraid to ask the big questions. It's far more important than you realize. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next belief system, New Age spirituality. And why is this so attractive to ex-Jehovah's Witnesses? And honestly, even just some active JWs in my experience. Well, again, as with atheism, I think anger at God may play a part. It could also be that it's another form of self-salvation. And that's a big part of New Ageism, is learning to control your own destiny. And that's something we were accustomed to. We were working out our own salvation as Jehovah's Witnesses. But honestly, the New Age can be even more seductive than atheism because there's real power involved. A lot of New Age practices and belief systems acknowledge the reality of the spirit realm. Practices like Wicca, sorcery, psychic mediumship, the use of tarot cards and Ouija boards, they all offer real spiritual power. And then there's other practices that may not be so overtly spiritistic, but they're like stepping stones to the occult. Practices like astrology, yoga, transcendental meditation, crystal healing, Reiki, and many other practices. New Agers tend to believe that the spirits that they're contacting or the power that they're accessing is benign. They feel like there are many types of spirits, some good and some evil. Some even believe that Christ is just one of those many spirits. Others, maybe the ones that are not so overtly occultic or spiritual, they might envision what they're doing as manipulating impersonal energy or working with universal spiritual laws rather than consulting actual spirits. But regardless of how it's conceptualized, where is all this coming from? And what is the price for that kind of power? Well, contrary to what many seem to believe, New Ageism is really just a Faustian bargain. What you give up to practice these things is a lot more valuable than what you gain. I'm going to read you some of what Jordan Taylor wrote. She is an ex-New Ager who became a Christian. She's talking about her experience in the New Age. And this is what she said. Still, I became trapped in a cycle of healing and up-leveling, constantly seeking the next healing session in various forms. Though each experience brought fleeting relief, when the feelings faded, I still wasn't satisfied. I believed my next crisis was just leveling me up and raising my vibration and cracking some secret code to the harmony of the collective planet. While believing all this, I was suffering and in a deep pit of depression. I longed to feel loved, heard, and understood. My soul lacked a sense of belonging. My body was in a constant state of fight or flight. Many days, I wished I wasn't alive. I was being tormented, experiencing regular sleep paralysis. I thought I could burn a little sage, say a chant, and put crystals in every corner of my room to stop it. I was wrong about all of it. What I was actually doing was laying down a welcome mat for darkness and deception and all that comes with it. The very practices I believed protected me and connected me to something divine were only pushing me further into darkness, further away from God. Unquote. So, why, if New Age practices are so healing, did Jordan feel that way? Bottom line, those spirits you think are helping you, they actually hate you. And by the way, if you think you're just manipulating energy fields, you're not. There are always spirits involved. Listen to what another ex-New Ager, Jessica, said about why New Age practices are so dangerous. And she's talking about the dark, selfish behavior that is often observed among New Agers. She says, it's actually not them. When I was in the New Age, I started transforming into a monster, a demon, so to speak, and it was never my character. Unquote. Now another New Age, or ex-New Ager, her name is Taylor Scroggins. She had gotten involved in astrology and yoga as a saved Christian. And this is what she said about what she was going through. Quote, I still identified as a Christian, but I was just mad at God. I just woke up one morning and I was depressed and I had despair, depression, and emptiness. And the more I craved astrology, the more I got into yoga meditation, crystals, and trying to see auras and opening third eye and all that stuff. It was like, as the rebellion grew, the hunger for witchcraft grew so much. That emptiness was the worst feeling in the world. My mom, my grandma, and Sandra, who was a Christian friend, by the way, had been praying and fasting for me for so long because they could just see on my face. They could see the demons in me. They could see the death on my face. Unquote. So Taylor ended up needing to be delivered from demons because of the New Age practices that she'd gotten tangled up with. It all just started with astrology. It seemed so innocent at first, but she went deeper and deeper until she was just tangled up in this web of deceit. And you know, I think the vast majority of people in this world, including most Christians, don't believe that somebody like Taylor could end up demonized and needing deliverance. But she did. And her story is not unique. There's currently a mass exodus from the New Age to Christianity. And the story is always the same. People often get into the New Age out of seemingly innocent curiosity, or maybe a need for physical or mental healing. And then it snowballs, and they find themselves in deep distress. So, if you are entrapped like Taylor or Jessica or Jordan. Jesus is the only way out. You are not stronger than wicked spirits. You're not smarter. But Jesus is. Call on him if you want to be set free. Okay, now moving on to the third belief system that I wanted to talk about. The third most common belief system, Gnosticism. And you know what? I think most people are not even going to know what I'm talking about. Like, they don't know what that word means. But once I explain a little bit of it, it might sound a little bit familiar. And it's often paired with New Age practices. So what it is, it's an ancient deception that began almost as soon as Christianity took hold. The apostles were grappling with the beginnings of it in the decades following Jesus' death and resurrection. And make no mistake, it was considered a very dangerous deception even then. So, this is how Wikipedia defines Gnosticism. Quote, Gnosticism, from ancient Greek, having knowledge, or Koine Greek, is a collection of different religious and philosophical ideas and systems that fully developed by the mid-2nd century among sects of early Christianity and other faiths. It is not a singular, homogeneous tradition or religion, but an umbrella term used by modern scholars to describe different groups and beliefs that shared certain characteristics. These diverse Gnostic groups generally emphasize personal spiritual knowledge, or gnosis, above the authority, traditions, and proto-Orthodox teachings of organized religious institutions. Now, this is the part I want you to take note of. It says, the Gnostic worldview typically distinguished between a hidden, uncorrupted supreme being and a flawed demiurge responsible for creating material reality. Gnostics held this material existence to be evil and believed the principal element of salvation was direct knowledge of the supreme divinity, attained via mystical or esoteric insight. Many Gnostic texts deal not in concepts of sin and repentance, but with illusion and enlightenment. So unquote. Gnosticism is a very complex and nuanced topic, and I can't fully explain it here. There's just so much to it. But the bit that ex-Jehovah's Witnesses seem to find the most fascinating is the idea that the God of the Old Testament, the one that we call Jehovah or Yahweh, is not a loving father, but an evil demiurge. A demiurge just means creator God, basically. This makes intuitive sense to them because the Watchtower organization emphasizes that the God they worship is Jehovah of the Old Testament. And because the organization felt evil to them, they reasoned that the God of the organization must also be evil. So there's a rejection of the Old Testament and a rejection of the God of the Old Testament. Now, this is where they differ from atheists. A lot of them view Jesus as a totally separate and superior God who only appeared to have come in the flesh, but was really a spirit. And others view Jesus as simply an enlightened man worthy of imitation. And another aspect that may appeal to ex-Jehovah's Witnesses is the fact that it's another philosophy that makes humans their own saviors. Contrary to the biblical teaching that we're saved through faith in Jesus Christ, Gnosticism teaches that we are saved through divine enlightenment, or gnosis. This is actually not far off from what the Watchtower organization teaches, with their emphasis on the saving power of taking in knowledge. So far, so good, right? But guess who the hero is in Gnosticism? It's the serpent in the Garden of Eden. The serpent is envisioned as a savior, one who's trying to inform humanity of their true nature, that they are gods He's trying to give them the knowledge that would be their salvation. And for acting on this knowledge, the evil demiurge punishes Adam and Eve and throws them out of the garden. Guys, this is a demonic inversion of the truth from the Bible. And as with most deceptions, Gnosticism does have elements of truth in it. Otherwise, it wouldn't resonate with people. Actually, some of what the apostles John and Paul taught that does seem to overlap a bit with Gnosticism. But these same two apostles were quick to correct first century Christians who were straying away from the pure teachings of Jesus Christ and into the more dangerous aspects of Gnosticism. Paul didn't pull any punches when he wrote in Galatians 1:8, quote, "But even if we or an angel from heaven should proclaim to you a gospel contrary to the gospel we have proclaimed to you, let him be accursed." And it's interesting that he said that he made mention of an angel because Gnostics were known for sort of deifying angels. And John addressed the Gnostic teaching that Jesus had not come in the flesh when he wrote this in 1 John 4:1-3. Quote, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. By this you will know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God, and every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, of which you have heard that it is coming, and now it is already in the world." Unquote. And the writer of Hebrews actually destroyed the Gnostic narrative that Jesus Christ was only a created angel. Yes, that's Gnosticism. The thing that Jehovah's Witnesses teach, that Jesus is a created angel, is Gnosticism. This is what it says in Hebrews chapter 1. "For to which of the angels did he," meaning God, "did he ever say, 'You are my son, today I have begotten you'? And again, 'I will be a father to him, and he shall be a son to me.' And when he again brings the firstborn into the world, he says, 'And let all the angels of God worship him.'" So no, Jesus is not a created angel. You know, Gnostic teachings can be really seductive to those who want to continue to have some sort of faith in Jesus, but they don't really understand or trust the Bible. And it's true that knowledge is important. God said, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." But the knowledge God was talking about was accurate knowledge about him, revealed by him, not human philosophies that change like the shifting sands. You know, really, every single one of these three deceptions that I have discussed are born out of a distrust of the Bible and the God of the Bible. And that's something I do want to talk about. You know, the fact that the Bible is trustworthy. I want to talk about that. It's a huge subject though, so that's going to have to be for another video. But for now, I want to leave you with some questions to ponder. Here's the first one. Is your distrust of the Bible based on a deep knowledge of it? Or is it based on emotions born out of having been spiritually abused? Here's another one. If you feel that your opinions are based on solid research, have you considered the reliability of the sources that you use to get your information? Why did you trust those sources and their assertions? Was it because it had all the marks of authenticity? Or because it just sounded good to you or resonated with you emotionally? Did you consider alternative explanations? And here is the most important one. Have you ever just got to the end of yourself and asked God to show you the truth?